Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back with you this week for our podcast on Alabama football. Coming off a great victory against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Alabama played a great game, and we'll get into that in just a few minutes. Got a bye week this week, so this podcast will be a little bit different. We're going to take a look at that and see what we can do getting ready for what can we help us in the bye week coming up. But first of all, I want to tell you that Lance and I really appreciate you tuning in and listening to our podcast. And one thing that Lance does, and does a great job of producing this couldn't be possible without Lance Shores, his production of getting everything ready and posted and going up. But one other thing he does is take some great pictures and videos. And I want to tell you, you need to go out. This week was homecoming. So you need to go out and check out Lance's site, rolltidebama.com or freelancepictures.com. and download some of those great pictures from homecoming. If you're a $1 Million Band parent or a $1 Million Band member, a cheerleader, Crimson Net, football player, or just an alumni, there's some great pictures this week on there from homecoming. The 92 championship team, which is one of my favorite teams, was honored in this game. Some great pictures on there of that and of Coach Stallings and other things. So If you want to, go on Lance's sites, rolltidebama.com, freelancepictures.com, and get some good Alabama pictures from homecoming. Well, this week on the podcast, in the first segment, we're going to review the game against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. In the second segment, we're going to name our players of the game. In our third and final segment, we're going to talk about the bye week. What can Alabama do in the bye week to help us through the end of our schedule?
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at tide100.9.com.
Well, welcome back to the first segment of the DC Capstone Report today. We're going to review the last game against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State Bulldogs came to town last Saturday for homecoming. Alabama had a great festive day of homecoming. They honored the 1992 championship team, one of my favorite teams, the Gene Stallings team that turned the corner for all the bad years and got us back to that great national championship win against the Miami Hurricanes. So that team was honored. That was fun to see that team honored at the game. And it was great to see Alabama come in and shake off the loss of Tennessee and get back to playing Alabama football. Alabama came away with a great victory, 30-6, and that 6 points were scored on the last play of the game with 1 second left on the clock. They had held them scoreless the entire game. So overall, I think Alabama had a really good game plan for this Mississippi State offense. You know, Mike Leach is a master pirate. He is the master of the formations and spreading the field. I just think that in this scenario, Coach Saban and his staff seem to understand what makes that Mike Leach offense tick and how to stop it. You know, we really had a good game plan coming in, even though we had a lot of players out on our defensive line. You know, we had DJ Dale out, Jaheim Otis out. There was some other, Deontay Lawson out in the linebacking core. A lot of injuries. People were, just getting rehabbed and just in street clothes on the sidelines. But a lot of other young players stepped up in this game. And the defensive plan was to keep the ball in front of them, give them the short passes, don't get beat long. And exactly what the plan turned out to work exactly that way. We were able to keep everything in front of us, pressure the quarterback. He didn't have but 3 to 4 seconds to throw the ball, so he couldn't get it deep down the field. He had to take his short throws, his quick routes, and we were able to stop them. In this game, one of the things I thought to be most impressive in this game was the way we would do on third downs. We were able to hold them to a lot of that third downs. They went for it on fourth downs a lot, but it was one of those deals where we were able to stop them on fourth downs and get off the field on third downs, and that kept them from eating up chunk yardage. Our offense didn't do as well as I expected in this game. I predicted a lot higher scoring game, but we came out and didn't establish anything in the run, which I think was one of the problems in this game. Couldn't establish a push up front. They actually played us in a way of trying to stop the run and making us throw the ball short. Didn't give us anything open down the field. tried to play a cover zone down the field and intermediate that wouldn't allow for down the field. So I think they had a really good game plan for our offense. But Bryce Young really did a good job of throwing the ball, connecting with his receivers. He was 21 of 35 for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns. They got us out, to a good play there in the first half. Scored 24 points in the first half. It got us out to a 24-0 lead. It seemed like we kind of went into a lull on offense after that. I had a lot of 3-and-outs. Didn't connect when we could have. Didn't run the ball efficiently. Didn't block well on offense. So I still think that's important for us to get cleared up before we go into this final stretch. But overall, it's always a great victory. Alabama comes out with a homecoming victory that pleased the fans, 30-6. Improved the record to 7-1. Look forward to the upcoming bye week so that we can get ourselves ready for this final stretch of our schedule. Well, here we are in the second segment of the DC Capstone Report. Welcome back. In the second segment, we always focus on our players of the game. Well, our players of the game on offense, it was Bryce Young. As I said earlier, he was 21 of 35 for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns. He extended plays. He extended time. There was one time where he had about 17 to 20 seconds to throw the ball for a touchdown in the end zone. And you just can't give him that much time to throw the ball. They were rushing 3, trying to cover everybody, and which they did a good job most of the time. But the problem was when he gave him so much time to move in the pocket and extend the time, he allowed to find somebody coming open, and he did that a couple of times. So Bryce Young is my offensive player of the game. On defense, I want to talk about one player that I thought had a tremendous game, a really bounce-back game. That is number 2, safety DeMarco Helms. Helms got beat several times that Tennessee game. I know he was hurting afterwards. I know he was felt really bad about what was going on in that Tennessee game and how he got exposed. And I think he could have sulked. He could have had it still in his head. But he came out in this game, and I think he did what Coach Saban asked him to do, and that was play with emotion, not worry about making mistakes, and play the way he knows to play aggressively on the field. And he did just that. He had 7 tackles and 5 assists and 1 sack. And on that 1 sack, he destroyed the running back who was trying to block him, pushed him right into the quarterback and sacked the quarterback. So you could tell that he was playing with a passion. He was a man on a mission. And it was a great bounce-back game for DeMarco Helms. He's always been known to hit man, the hardest hitter on the team. And I think he kind of lost some of his aggressiveness in that Tennessee game like he did with some of the other players. And maybe anxiety got the best of him, and he got put in some matchup situations where he couldn't cover the speed of the wideouts and got really exposed in that game. I think this was a great bounce-back game for him. So DeMarco Helms is one of my defensive players of the game. My other defensive player of the game is a player we hadn't heard a lot of all year, and that's Eli Ricks. Eli Ricks is a transfer out of LSU. A lot of folks have been saying, why has he been playing? I can only take what Coach Saban said, and that was he was taking him more time to learn. He had a little issues in the offseason, as we all know. He had little injuries that kept him out of practice, and you learn the Saban defensive scheme in practice. And it's taken him a lot of time to learn that and get comfortable with it, so he can play within himself and play aggressive like he wants to. He play fast, and when he knows the system, he can play fast. And I think Coach Saban challenged him after the Tennessee game that everybody's place wasn't secure, that you wasn't going to guarantee a position. And so he worked in practice really hard, proved himself, and started this game and had some great plays, great pass breakups, really knocked the ball out several times in close plays. He could compete for 50-50 balls. He was the type of ball-hawking, aggressive cornerback that you want. So I believe him going into the starting lineup to replace Terrion Arnold was a big deal in this game. And I think that we'll see that maybe carry over to the LSU game in 2 weeks. So my offensive player of the game is Bryce Young. My defensive players of the game are DeMarco Helms and Eli Ricks. Well, here we are on our third and final segment of this week's DC Capstone Report. Let me remind you, if you're still listening to us and you're tuning in each and every week, don't forget to go out there and check out Lance's other sites, RollTideBama.com, FreelancePictures.com. You can get some great Alabama content, especially from this last week's homecoming game. A lot of great pictures there of the $1 Million Band, the cheerleaders, Crimsonettes, and the football players. So go out there and check out Lance's sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Well, here in the third and final segment, we usually preview the upcoming opponent, but we don't have one this week. It's a bye week. What I'd like to look at is what can we accomplish in this bye week? What do we need to do in order to better ourselves for our final games of the season? Well, number one is we need to get healthy. We need to use this week for Bryce Young to get healthier so that he can practice the plays in practice leading up to the LSU game and get healthy and get his shoulder healthy. So that he can keep his repetition up in practice and allow himself to be able to get his timing down with his receivers. So I think that's important for Bryce Young's health. The other is there's just so many people that were out on the defensive line and linebackers that have injuries that need to be healthy as well. We need to get DJ Dell back, need to get Jaheim Notice back, and Delonte Lawson back. Going to need them down the road during this stretch of games. So we really need to get them healthy as well. And then as far as getting healthy, we need to get mentally and physically healthy for just the players who are nicked up. You know, it's hard to play in the SEC 8 games without being some kind of nicked up. You play through a lot of that. But here's a week of rest where you get to take some time to rest, do an introspective look, maybe do some of the counseling sessions to get your head right in the game. Where's your head at during this game? Help you with that, the anxiety that some of the young players might be going through. So I believe that it's a threefold getting healthy this week. The players who need to get healthy physically, those that are hurt that need to get back into the good repetitions, and then also just those that are nicked up need to get their mind right and get their health back. So I think the number one thing in this week is to get healthy. The number two thing is we got 2 big games on the road. We need to learn how to play on the road better. Every game we play on the road this year, Texas, last second game, we go on the road in Tennessee and we lose that game. I think we need to learn to play better on the road in loud atmospheres. We got 2 games coming up against LSU and Ole Miss where both of the teams feel like they can beat Alabama, and both of the teams are really going to be pushing their crowd to get into the game to affect us because they've seen that we can be effective at that. So I think that during this bye week, we need to learn how to play effectively on the road. So that means remember what we're doing, and what our goal is. Our skilled players need to understand the signals, need to understand communication, which is a big thing. Our offensive line needs to work on the communication, quarterback, center communication, all of those things on the road. And we need to get our anxiety in check. We need to be able to go on the road and play aggressively like we have in the past and dominate our opponent. It's going to be difficult to go into LSU in Death Valley, to go out down there and play a game on the road where they want to win. They have a desire to beat Alabama. Brian Kelly said that when he came into the SEC, he wanted to go through Alabama to get an SEC championship. He wanted to beat Nick Saban. And that's something that he's going to hype and instill in his players this week, to beat Nick Saban. They can make a name for himself by beating Alabama when it comes up in 2 weeks. So we have to get ready to play these big games on the road. The third and final thing is, what can we do? Who can we invest our time in during this time that can develop them into contributors? What changes can we make, if any? We just saw the change with Eli Ricks coming in to start. It seemed to work. Will that continue? Are there other players we can take a look at? What are some of the other players you might want to look at? What about Amari Niblack? He's got into some of the games at tight end, and I think we need another a threat at tight end to maybe stretch the defense a little bit. He might be a player that could work more into the scheme of things on offense to help Bryce Young with some mismatch on linebackers going forward. So that might be a player to watch. Another one is Earl Little Jr. Earl Little Jr. had been injured. He's a freshman. Every report I've had shows he's been turning heads all around. And so if he can come back and contribute in this secondary, can he make this secondary better, just like Eli Ricks seemed to in the last game? So Earl Little Jr. might be another a name. On offense, again, Tyler Harrell got in the game this last week. The transfer from Louisville made one catch. We think he's back getting healthy. Does he make a stride during this bye week to be able to get more playing time on the field to stretch that defense? And then finally, Tyler Booker. I have said all year, I think that when Tyler Booker is playing on the line, we're more aggressive and seem to be better in the run. We're going to have to run the ball against LSU and run the ball against Ole Miss to win those games. I really believe we need to run the ball. So is Tyler Booker going to be able to make a push during this bye week for a starting position on that offensive line and to be able to make a difference? So as far as looking forward to the bye week, number one, we need to get healthy. Number two, we need to learn how to play on the road and manage the crowd noise. And number three, who can we find? What changes can we make? What players can we invest this time in to see if they can make a difference down the road? Well, that's it for this week on the DC Capstone Report. Thanks for all for tuning in. Look forward to being back with you next week as we will preview the upcoming game against LSU. Enjoy this bye week yourselves and get to watch some games and around the league. Some big games going on this week. So just get ready for the next time we take the field against the LSU Tigers in Baton Rouge. We'll be back next week to talk about that. Until then, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report saying roll tide. Have a great week.